Hi there, Martin from Define Marketing, and I just wanted to jump on today and have a quick chat with you about maintaining your WordPress website and the things that you need to do on a fairly regular basis to make sure that your website is always working and performing at its peak. So let's start off with things that should be done on a daily to a weekly basis. So make sure and monitor that your website is up to date, that backups have been done every day, and that any plugins, themes, or the WordPress core itself has been updated to make sure that it's always running the latest piece of software, and just make sure that any security related issues have been patched or fixed. So they're your daily to weekly things. The only other thing that I could suggest that you look at doing during that section is that when you do any updates, go through and do a visual check to make sure that your website still looks and performs the way it was prior to the update. The next one we're going to look at is things that you should do monthly. So monthly is make sure that you have regular backups in place and check that those backups are functional and ready to be accessed if needed. Make sure that any major updates to your plugins, etc., have been done and completed, and also do a visual check to make sure things are all working. Now, the other thing that I would recommend you do during this stage is to do a speed test on your website by jumping onto something like Pingdom or any of those types of speed testing things that you can test your website load times on, and maybe make sure that you empty any caches and things like that for any optimization plugins that you have on your website. So they're the sorts of things that I would do monthly. And then quarterly, I would recommend that you do a speed optimization check. Then make sure that your website is performing well and go through and do any adjustments to your overall optimizations and your caching files and all of those sorts of things. Do some testing and also regularly check to make sure that any links on your website that link to third-party platforms or third-party websites are all still working. Now, then we're going to look at things that you should do yearly. So every year you should be making sure that your domains and everything are renewed, your SSL certificates are renewed, check that your hosting provider is still providing the service that you signed and paid for, and overall make sure that everything is working smoothly. Make sure that you've got all of your backups that you are needing to have access to, and make sure that your website is still performing correctly. Now, I would also recommend that after you've done this for about 2 years, once you get to your website being 2 years since it's had a refresh or an update or an overhaul, I would start planning to do a second, start looking at the next iteration of your website. So on average, we recommend that a well-maintained website is going to last you 2 to 3 years before technology moves on far enough for you to need a new website or an update to that website. So if you're at that point between the second and third year, start talking to your website developer, start planning your next website, because any longer than 2 to 3 years, your website starts to look dated, it starts to not perform at its peak, and no matter how much maintenance and things you do on it, plugins will start to get out of date and no longer perform the functions that you feel are necessary for successful operation of your website. So just make sure that you are looking at all of those tips, tricks, maintenance and everything else on a regular basis, starting with your weekly, then your monthly, your quarterly, and your annual maintenance. And after 2 years and before we hit 3 years, I would start looking and planning the next iteration of your website. So this is Martin from Define Marketing. I hope you got something out of this video, and I'll see you in the next one.